They told me not to come. I got the warning 3 days before the gala, slipped into my inbox from an anonymous address. No subject, no signature, just a message that said, "If you show up, she'll lie again. If you stay home, you'll never know." I read it 5 times. It was either a prank or someone new. Someone saw what I wasn't ready to admit. And like a coward, I deleted it. Then I undeleted it. Then I stared at it until my laptop screen went dim. I hadn't planned on going. I wasn't on the guest list. Not after what happened last year. Not after what she did. But something about that message crawled under my skin. Made it itch. So I rented a suit. Not mine. Mine didn't fit anymore. And honestly, I didn't care enough to fix that. This one smelled like someone else's success. I got to the gala before anyone saw me. Waited outside. Watched the limos roll up, one by one. Watched her step out of the third one. She was wearing navy blue. The dress looked like it cost more than my last 3 months of rent combined. Her hair was up. Her smile was the kind she practiced in the mirror. And her arm was linked with someone else's. Not him. Not the guy from before. This one was older. Bigger. Definitely richer. I stood in the shadows and watched them walk in like they were royalty. And here's the thing that really got me. She didn't even hesitate. No glance over the shoulder. No flicker of guilt. Just straight through the glass doors like the past year didn't happen. Like I never existed. I waited 23 minutes before walking in. I know because I stared at the time on my phone the whole way through it. Every second felt like betrayal breathing down my neck. Inside, the ballroom smelled like money and deceit. Champagne on silver trays. Laughter echoing off ceilings too high for reality. I didn't belong here. But neither did the truth, and I had plenty of that to go around. I saw her again near the grand piano, laughing, tapping her glass against his, whispering into his ear, her fingers brushing his chest like they were rehearsing for a scandal. That was our thing. That little touch. That tiny, innocent brush of fingertips. She used to do it when she was proud of me, when she thought no one was watching, when we were still real. I didn't approach right away. I circled, waited, let her see glimpses of me near the bar, near the ice sculpture, near the silent auction. I wanted her to feel me in the room before she saw me. It worked. She turned. I'll never forget that moment. Her smile froze. Her jaw tightened. Her hand slipped from his arm like it had been burned. And then she did something I wasn't prepared for. She came toward me, slowly, like the room had shrunk, like I was the only thing in it. She stopped just inches away. Her eyes looked up at me, wide, soft, like they used to. And then she reached out, bare fingers trembling, to touch mine, to reconnect, to pretend. But I didn't move. I didn't say her name. I just whispered, in a voice I barely recognized as mine. Not this time. Never again. And I watched her hand fall. The best part? He saw the whole thing. I didn't look back as I walked away from her. I heard her whisper my name behind me, softly, like maybe she was hoping I'd turn around, like it wasn't already too late. But I didn't. I couldn't. If I had turned back, I might have hesitated. And she didn't deserve hesitation. Not after what she did. The moment I stepped out into the cold night air, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Clarity. It didn't feel like victory. It wasn't relief. It was more like stepping out of a lie. Like I had been living inside someone else's fantasy, and for the first time, I could breathe in my own misery and call it mine. I went back to my apartment, the one I'd moved into after she needed space to focus on her growth. The one-bedroom shoebox with peeling wallpaper and a fridge that hummed like a dying animal. It was a downgrade in every sense except one. It was mine. No curated Instagram life. No high-end kitchen appliances I wasn't allowed to use. No wine glasses I wasn't sophisticated enough to hold properly. Just a couch, a dented coffee table, and the echo of a man who was finally ready to admit that love isn't supposed to feel like punishment. I poured myself a drink. The cheap kind. The kind that scratches your throat and reminds you you're not worth more. Then I opened my laptop. I couldn't sleep. My hands were still shaking. Not from anger. From the weight of everything. That email was still there. If you show up, she'll lie again. If you stay home, you'll never know. But now I had shown up. And I knew. At least I thought I did. But there was another email waiting for me. A new one. From a different address. No subject again. Just a short message. Check the phone. Audio. March 3rd. That's it. I stared at the screen. I don't know why, but my chest went ice cold. March 3rd. That date meant nothing to me, at first. But then I remembered. That was the day Letha came home sick. The day she said the board meeting had been postponed and she needed to rest. I remembered cooking soup for her. She barely touched it. Slept the whole day. Or so I thought. I hadn't deleted our shared cloud account when we split. She insisted she'd remove herself. I guess she never did. My phone backed up all our devices, including hers. With a mix of dread and shaking hands, I navigated to the voice memos app. I scrolled until I found a file labeled simply 3 to 3 meeting. I shouldn't have pressed play. I know that now. But I did. At first, I heard office noise, keyboards, laughter in the background, the shuffle of papers. Then her voice. Clear, confident, unfamiliar. I told him I was sick, she said, followed by a male laugh. Not Darren. Someone else. Then more footsteps. A door closed. Silence. And then moaning. I dropped the phone. I stared at it like it had betrayed me, like it had been unfaithful. I wanted to smash it, scream, punch the wall. But all I did was sit there, frozen, like a bad actor in a movie I never wanted to star in. It wasn't just the sounds. It was her voice in between them, laughing, telling him I was so oblivious I'd believe anything if she said it with a headache and a pout. And then, the part that wrecked me completely. I could cheat in the next room, and he'd still ask me if I need tea. I actually said that once. After she cried during a Zoom call, I made her tea. I thought I was helping. I shut the app, closed the laptop, but the words stayed with me, echoing louder than the audio ever could. The next day, I got a third email. This one had a photo attached. It was her. And him. The man from the gala. But they weren't alone. They were sitting with someone I hadn't seen in years. My brother. I stared at the photo for 10 minutes straight. My eyes refused to blink. It felt like the pixels themselves were lying, like maybe if I tilted the screen just right, it would all rearrange into something else. Something innocent. But no. There she was, Letha, sitting in that same navy dress from the gala, leaning in close to the man whose arm she clung to like a prize ribbon. And next to them, grinning like he'd won something too, was my brother, Malden. I hadn't seen him in nearly a year. We weren't exactly close anymore. Ever since our dad's funeral, things had shifted between us. He'd always been the golden child, the one with charm, ambition, and just enough moral flexibility to succeed. I was the quiet one, the fixer, the one who stayed behind when everyone else moved forward. But I never hated him. Not until now. The photo was taken at a restaurant. Not just any restaurant, Rosari's. The one where Letha and I had our 4th anniversary dinner. The place she said was too sentimental to return to. So instead, she went there with him. With them. I didn't even know which part of it wrecked me more. The dress I helped zip up hanging off her shoulder like it belonged to someone else, or the way Malden's hand was on the table, close to hers, too close, like he wasn't just a bystander in her lies. I needed answers, but I didn't know who to go to first. So I started with the only person who ever had the guts to warn me, the anonymous emailer. I replied, "Who are you?" No response. I waited 6 hours and then sent another. "Why are you sending me this? What do you want?" Still nothing. But the next morning, taped to my apartment door, was an envelope. No name. No postage. Inside were 2 things. A single black USB drive and a note in tiny, printed letters that read, "Your marriage was a business transaction. Time to see the receipts." My hands were shaking as I plugged it into my laptop. I expected more audio. Or maybe texts. Screenshots. What I didn't expect was surveillance footage. The first video showed my brother and Letha, 6 months ago, entering a luxury hotel downtown. Her in gym clothes, him in a hoodie and baseball cap, both with sunglasses on indoors. Real subtle. Time-stamped at 2:14 p.m. on a Tuesday, a time she told me she was stuck in a strategy session with the regional design director. The next file was worse. It was from her office. Security camera footage. She was at her desk. Darren, the original guy I thought she'd been seeing, stood behind her, reading something over her shoulder. She handed him a file. He kissed her neck. It wasn't hesitant. It was practiced. She didn't even flinch. My marriage wasn't a marriage. It was a performance. And I'd been cast as the background prop. The man who looked supportive enough in pictures, but quiet enough to never ask questions. But it was the final file that snapped something in me completely. It was an audio clip. No date. No context. Just Letha's voice in a phone call. "Yeah, he's not a threat," she said, laughing. "He won't leave me. He doesn't even know how to leave. He's the type who'll still bring me flowers when I'm pregnant with someone else's baby. Trust me, Doyle's pathetic. He's safe. Safe. Pathetic. A place to land when everything else fell apart. I don't remember closing the laptop. I don't remember pouring the drink. I just remember staring at my own reflection in the dark screen and wondering how many versions of myself I'd let her destroy before I stopped calling it love. But that night, for the first time in months, I did something she never expected me to do. I made a plan. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, eyes wide open, heart numb, replaying every memory with her like a crime scene on loop. Our wedding vows felt like a joke now. Her laughter, the late-night conversations, the way she used to tuck her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, it all felt manufactured, like she was just practicing for whatever role came next. And me? I was the rehearsal, the trial version of the man she actually wanted. No, of the man who could give her what I never had, power. By morning, I wasn't angry. I was surgical, calm, focused. That's what betrayal does to you when it's deep enough. It doesn't make you scream. It makes you precise. I started pulling bank records. I had access to the joint account she forgot to shut down. That's the thing about people who think they're smarter than you. They underestimate how quietly you can watch them. The first thing I noticed? A series of cash withdrawals, all in even amounts. Always the same ATM. Always during office hours. Not suspicious at first glance, until I checked the location. It wasn't near her office. It was near Malden's apartment. The next detail? A transfer labeled consulting retainer. $1,000 every 2 weeks, going to an account under the name Wendell Chase. I almost laughed when I saw it. She really thought I was that stupid? Wendell Chase was our cat's name growing up. He died when I was 11. But she remembered it. Used it. Thought I'd never notice. I traced the routing number. Guess who it belonged to? My brother. She was paying him. To do what? Keep quiet? Be a decoy? Or worse, had they been plotting this together all along? I sat on the edge of my bed, just staring at the screen, and something shifted in me. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. Not the doormat. Not the sad-eyed husband begging for scraps of attention. No. If I was going down, I was taking the truth with me and dragging them into the light they'd spent years hiding from. So I made calls. I contacted someone I hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade, an old college friend named Sterling, who now worked as an investigator for a private firm. He owed me a favor, and for once, I was ready to collect. I sent him everything: the bank transfers, the audio files, the photos, even the anonymous emails. I told him I didn't care how deep this went. I wanted every name, every date, every secret. Sterling didn't hesitate. "You sure you're ready for what I find?" he asked. "No," I told him. "But I need to hear it anyway." That same day, I got a text from Letha. Short, cold, almost robotic. "Are you okay? Heard you were at the gala. Can we talk?" Talk? What was there to talk about? I nearly deleted it. But something told me not to. Something told me to respond just enough to pull her in. So I texted back. Soon. Not yet. It was vague enough to keep her guessing. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted her nervous, unbalanced, wondering what I knew, and who else might know it too. By the end of the week, Sterling sent me his first report. I opened the PDF while sitting in my car, parked outside the same building I once helped her move into. The title was simple. Subject, Letha Hallberg, Internal Risk Assessment. Inside, it read like a spy novel. She'd been having not one, but 3 affairs over the course of our marriage. Darren was just the most recent. Malden had been involved for over 2 years. And the third? This one knocked the air out of my lungs. Her direct manager, Susan Atwell, married, 2 kids, a woman. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal itself, or the realization that she'd been living an entirely different life, layered with masks and mirrors I never saw through. But the report didn't end there. The final page showed a still image from a traffic camera. Letha, at 3:47 a.m., pulling out of a private medical facility. Alone. The date? 2 weeks before the gala. And the line under the photo, in bold red print. Subject was discharged from fertility clinic. Procedure unknown. Recommend further investigation. That was when I realized she was planning a future without me. A future that might already be in motion. I didn't even know what a fertility clinic visit meant. Not at first. My brain was too scrambled to connect the dots. I reread that last line of the report over and over. Procedure unknown. Something about it didn't sit right. She hadn't mentioned kids in years. In fact, she once told me that bringing a child into our mess would be cruel. That hurt, of course. I'd always imagined we'd be parents one day. But I respected it. Or at least, I told myself I did. Now I was wondering if the "our" in that sentence had never included me. I tried to calm down, to think logically. Maybe she had gone to support a friend. Maybe it was a health checkup. Maybe it had nothing to do with anything sinister. But I knew better. People don't sneak out to a private clinic at 3:47 in the morning wearing sunglasses and a hoodie unless they're hiding something. I sent Sterling a follow-up message asking him to dig deeper. He replied within the hour, saying he'd already submitted a request for internal logs. Might take a day or two, he warned. Patience. That was the thing. I wasn't patient anymore. While I waited, I made another decision. I called Malden. He didn't pick up. I called again. Straight to voicemail. So I did something I swore I'd never do. I drove to his condo. He lived in one of those modern glass towers, the kind that scream status but feel cold inside. I stood outside his unit for a full minute before knocking. I could hear movement, hurried, panicked, and then silence. When the door finally opened, he looked like he hadn't slept. Shirt wrinkled, hair a mess. Guilty. Doyle, he said, swallowing hard. This is unexpected. You're going to want to sit down, I told him, walking past him before he could stop me. Inside, the place smelled like aftershave and secrets. I didn't waste time. You've been taking money from her, I said. You lied to me. For how long? His mouth opened, then shut. No defense. Just that twitch of guilt across his face that confirmed everything before he spoke. It's not what you think, he began. I held up a flash drive. No? Because this says otherwise. Malden sank into the couch like his knees gave out. I didn't want to hurt you, man. She offered. Said you wouldn't understand. That she just needed a clean way out. I laughed. I actually laughed. Clean? You think this is clean? You were my brother, and you took her money to help stage my replacement. She told me you were spiraling, that you weren't stable anymore. She said you just hold her back. I froze. That word, spiraling, it wasn't random. It was scripted. She said the same thing in the audio file. He was quoting her, word for word. I stood there, breath shallow, chest tight. Then I asked the one question I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. Did she get pregnant? Malden looked up slowly. I don't know, Doyle. But if she did, it's not yours. I didn't say anything after he told me that. I just stood there, staring at my brother like I was looking through him. Like he wasn't even a real person anymore. Just another crack in the life I thought I'd built. He didn't try to explain further. Didn't apologize again. He just sat there, hunched over, avoiding my eyes, probably realizing there was no version of this conversation that would end without damage. I left his condo in silence. When I got home, I checked my email. Sterling had sent a follow-up. Short. 2 attachments. A one-line message. I hope you're ready for this. The first file was a document from the clinic, redacted in parts, but with just enough left visible to confirm what I feared. Letha had not only been visiting for consultations, she had undergone IVF. The listed procedure date? 10 days before the gala. And the patient's listed emergency contact? Malden Hallberg. It wasn't even subtle. But the second attachment, that was the one that broke me. A scanned intake form with a handwritten note from Letha to the clinic administrator, requesting that my husband not be contacted under any circumstances. He is unaware of this process. She even signed it. There was her handwriting, confident and steady, like this was all just business. I sat there in the dark, the screen burning my eyes, my chest hollowing out piece by piece. She had planned a child. Not with me. Not even for me. But while still legally married to me, while still pretending to come home to the man who folded her laundry and stocked her favorite creamer, she had built a future behind my back, with my own brother. And she tried to make sure I never found out. But someone wanted me to find out. Someone had been feeding me clues. Someone who knew all of it and wanted it to burn. So I made a move. I texted Letha. Let's talk. Tomorrow. In public. She responded in less than a minute. Yes, please. No hesitation. No demands. Which meant she was scared. Or maybe just ready to tie up loose ends. Either way, I was done playing catch-up. If she thought she could walk away from this untouched, she was about to learn something new about the man she'd underestimated. The next morning, I walked into that cafe like I was walking into court. She was already there, seated by the window, sipping her overpriced latte like it was any other Wednesday. When she saw me, her expression faltered, just for a second, before she gave me that same soft smile she used when she wanted to end a fight without actually apologizing. "Doyle," she said, "I'm glad you came." I sat down slowly, placed a small envelope on the table, and met her gaze. "You're going to tell me the truth," I said, voice low, "or I'll show the entire company what's in here." She blinked. Her fingers froze on the cup. "What is it?" "Proof," I said. "Every lie. Every transaction. Every voice memo. Every clinic visit. Your manager. Darren. Malden. All of it." She looked like she might be sick. And then, for the first time, she dropped the mask. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. And I smiled. "Nothing," I said. "I'm already taking everything." For a moment, she didn't say anything. Her fingers trembled slightly as she moved her coffee aside like it was suddenly in the way. I could see her mind racing behind her perfectly calm expression, calculating, spinning, trying to recover some kind of upper hand. But she was too late. She had underestimated me for so long. She didn't know how to speak to me without using some version of control. "I didn't want to hurt you," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Things got complicated." I almost laughed. Complicated? That's what she called sneaking off to a fertility clinic while she was still married to me, paying my brother to stay quiet, having an affair with her boss and her boss's boss, and possibly planning to raise a child with someone who wasn't even in her life a year ago. "I'm not here for closure," I said, keeping my voice low. "I'm not here to fight. I'm just giving you the courtesy of knowing what's coming." Her eyes narrowed. "Coming. Your job," I said. "Gone. Your little web of secrets? Torn apart." I sent copies of everything to Susan's husband, Darren's wife, HR, the board, Malden's firm, too. "You'll start getting calls within the hour." I expected her to panic, to scream, maybe even to beg. But instead she laughed. Softly, bitterly. "You think that's all of it?" she said. "You think you have the whole picture?" I stared at her, confused. "I didn't go to the clinic for Malden," she said, finally looking me dead in the eyes. "Or Darren. Or anyone you think you've got figured out." She leaned in, lowering her voice so only I could hear it. "I was going alone." My heart slowed. "What?" She smirked. "I used your name, Doyle. You were listed as my husband, so they let it slide. But the sample? The donor profile? It was anonymous. You were never part of the plan, but you were the cover." It hit me like a wave I didn't see coming. She had used my identity to build something I had no part in. Legally, ethically, I didn't even know what it meant, but it felt deeper than betrayal. It felt like theft, like I'd been erased from my own story and then used as a prop in hers. "Why?" I managed to ask. "Because," she said, tilting her head, "you were safe. Predictable. You didn't ask questions. You were the perfect alibi." I felt something crack in my chest. Not anger, not sadness, just this raw, hollow disappointment that I'd given so much of my life to someone who saw me as nothing more than a shield, a placeholder. "I hope it was worth it," I said. She nodded once. "It was." But then I stood up, and that's when I gave her the final blow. "You know the donor wasn't anonymous, right?" That shook her. "I traced it," I said, voice steady now. "You didn't cover your tracks well enough. You chose someone you thought was powerful, successful, genetically superior." I leaned in, just like she had. "But you know what else he is? A convicted felon in another state. Identity theft. You really should have checked his past." Her lips parted slightly. She looked pale. "You can't prove that," she said, but there was no confidence left in her voice. I dropped a copy of the donor's record on the table, right next to her untouched coffee. "You're going to lose everything, Letha," I said quietly. "And this time, I won't be there to help you clean it up." Then I walked out. I didn't look back. It's been 9 months since I walked out of that cafe. I remember how the air outside felt. Crisp, biting, clean. Like something had been lifted from my lungs that I didn't even know was there. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was being crushed under someone else's plans. I felt like me again. A lot changed after that day. Letha's downfall was quiet but thorough. She didn't get fired immediately, but once the board saw the reports and the legal complications surrounding her misuse of marital identity for medical access, they launched an investigation. Susan resigned to focus on family. Darren was let go under the ever-popular mutual agreement. And Malden? He lost his consulting license. Turns out, When you take money under fake names and violate multiple ethics codes, people stop trusting you. She tried to call me once after that, just once. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was soft, shaken, not her usual rehearsed confidence. She said she didn't know how things got so twisted, that it was never supposed to end that way, that maybe I could forgive her someday. I didn't delete the voicemail. I didn't respond either. I just let it sit there, quietly collecting dust, like everything else she left behind. But this isn't about her anymore. A few weeks after everything fell apart, Sterling, the friend who helped me pull the truth out, invited me to a small gathering. Nothing fancy, just a quiet night with people who didn't know my story, who didn't look at me like I was broken. I almost didn't go, but I forced myself. That's where I met Alira. She wasn't loud. She didn't come with flashy smiles or a perfect dress. She brought a tray of homemade lemon bars and accidentally spilled iced tea on my shoes. But she looked me in the eye when she apologized, really looked. And for some reason, I didn't flinch. We talked that night for 4 hours straight. And the strangest part? I didn't tell her a single thing about Letha. Not then. Not for weeks. Because for once, I wanted something that started without pain. Without scars being the first thing on the table. Today, I work in a new city. Smaller firm. Fewer people. I walk to work now. My apartment is modest, but it smells like me. Not cologne I never wore or perfume I never liked. Just coffee, books, and peace. Alira and I are still taking it slow. She knows the truth now, not all the details, but enough. And she never looked at me with pity, just with understanding. Some nights, when it's quiet, she'll reach for my hand without saying anything. And that's enough. Last week, we passed by a wedding boutique. She stopped to admire a dress in the window. I didn't panic. I didn't freeze. I just smiled and asked her if she liked lace or silk. She blushed. I don't know where this road leads. But I do know I'm finally walking it with someone who sees me. Not as a placeholder, not as a backup plan, but as a person, a partner. So if you've been in that dark place, thinking it'll never get better, it does. One breath at a time. One truth at a time. One goodbye at a time.